an empire that ruled half the world for over 4 centuries. It fought the Romans and defeated them. It captured their emperors. It built palaces so magnificent that travelers wept at their beauty. So why don't we hear much about it? Because history is written by the victors, and the Sassanids lost the final battle. Tonight, you'll hear the whole story. The story of an empire born from the revolt of a daring young man, and ended with the last king vanishing into the darkness, murdered far from home. Close your eyes. Relax. Let me take you on a journey through time. Chapter 1. The Fire Temple Guardian's Son. The year is 208 CE. In a small town in southern Persia, a young man named Ardashir stands before a fire temple. The sacred flames flicker in the darkness, casting dancing shadows on the ancient stone walls. He is not supposed to be here. His father is the temple guardian, an honorable position, yes, but a humble one. Ardashir is destined for nothing more than to tend these flames, to whisper prayers to Ahura Mazda, to live and die in obscurity. But Ardashir has other plans. He watches the Parthian nobles ride through town on their magnificent horses. He sees their silk robes, their golden jewelry, their arrogance. The Parthian Empire has ruled Persia for nearly 500 years, but it has grown weak, fractured, corrupt. The nobles fight among themselves, the borders crumble, and Ardashir sees opportunity. Late at night, when the temple is empty, he practices with his sword. His muscles ache, his hands blister, but he does not stop. Because Ardashir knows something the Parthian kings have forgotten. Empires are not eternal. Power does not belong to those who inherit it, but to those who seize it. The morning air carries the scent of wild roses and distant dust storms. Ardashir has left the fire temple. He has joined the military, risen through the ranks with a combination of skill, charisma, and calculated ruthlessness. Now, at age 30, he is governor of a small province. It is not enough. His officers gather around him in a tent as the sun sets over the Persian plateau. They are loyal men, hungry men, men who see in Ardashir's eyes the same fire that burns in the temple. The Parthian king grows weaker every day, Ardashir says quietly. His sons plot against each other. His nobles hoard wealth while the people starve. One of his officers shifts uncomfortably. To speak of rebellion is treason, my lord. Ardashir smiles. I speak not of rebellion, I speak of restoration. He unfolds an ancient scroll, a genealogy his scribes have carefully prepared. It traces his lineage back to the Achaemenids, the dynasty of Cyrus the Great, and Darius, the kings who once ruled from India to Greece. It may be exaggerated, it may even be fabricated, but it is useful. The blood of the ancient kings flows in my veins, Ardashir declares, and I will restore Persia to its rightful glory. The officers exchange glances. Then, one by one, they kneel. The die is cast. Chapter 2. The 7-Year War. The Parthian king, Artabanus V, does not take Ardashir seriously at first. This is his mistake. Ardashir begins by consolidating power in his home province. He lowers taxes, wins the support of the common people. He reforms his army, training them in new tactics inspired by Roman legions but adapted to Persian strengths. When Artabanus finally sends an army to crush this upstart governor, Ardashir is ready. The Battle of Hormozgan takes place on a dusty plain where the wind howls like a wounded animal. Ardashir's forces are outnumbered, but they are better trained, better motivated, and led by a man who has nothing to lose and everything to gain. The cavalry charges echo across the valley. Steel clashes against steel. Men scream, horses fall. And when the dust settles, Artabanus himself lies dead on the battlefield. Ardashir stands over the fallen king's body. Blood stains the earth. The old order has ended. A new dynasty is born. But victory in battle is only the beginning. The Parthian nobles do not simply accept defeat. For 7 long years, Ardashir fights battle after battle, siege after siege, slowly bringing the fractured empire under his control. He is in his 40s now. Gray touches his temples, scars mark his body, but his will has not weakened. In the city of Ctesiphon, the ancient capital, Ardashir finally enters through gates that open for him, not by force, but by acclamation. The people line the streets. They throw flowers. They cheer, not because they love him, not yet, but because they are tired. Tired of war, tired of chaos, tired of weak kings. Ardashir understands this. He knows that conquering is easier than ruling, that maintaining power requires something more than the sword. It requires vision. Chapter 3. The Architecture of Empire. Ardashir sits in the throne room of Ctesiphon, and he makes decisions that will shape Persia for 400 years. First, religion. The Parthians allowed religious diversity, even chaos. Every god, every cult, every belief competed for influence. Ardashir sees the weakness in this. He declares Zoroastrianism the state religion, the ancient faith of fire and light, of the eternal struggle between good and evil, between Ahura Mazda and Ahriman. He does not do this out of mere piety. He does it because empires need unity, and unity requires shared belief. The high priest, the Mobedan Mobed, becomes second in power only to the king himself. Together, king and priest will govern body and soul. Second, administration. Ardashir divides his empire into provinces, each governed by appointees he chooses, not hereditary nobles, but men selected for competence and loyalty. He can dismiss them. He can execute them if they fail. This is revolutionary. This is dangerous to traditional power structures. But Ardashir does not care about tradition. He cares about results. Third, the military. He creates a professional standing army paid by the state, loyal to the crown rather than individual nobles. The cavalry becomes the pride of the Persian military. Armored horses and riders who charge like moving fortresses. They will become legendary. They will terrify Rome. The evening light filters through the high windows of the palace. Ardashir is old now, in his 60s, and he knows his time is limited. He has built the foundation, but foundations are nothing without what rises above them. He calls his son to his private chambers. Shapur is young, ambitious, trained in warfare and statecraft since childhood. He looks at his father with a mixture of love and impatience. "The Romans mock us," Shapur says. "They call us barbarians. They remember when Alexander conquered Persia and think we are still weak." Ardashir smiles, a thin, knowing smile. "Then you will teach them otherwise." "I will, father. I swear it." "Good." Ardashir's voice drops to a whisper. "But remember, my son, empires are not built on war alone. War is the storm that clears the ground, but what grows afterward, that is what matters." Shapur nods, but his eyes burn with the fire of youth, with dreams of glory and conquest. Ardashir sees this. He recognizes it. It was once his fire too. The old king dies peacefully in his sleep in the year 242 CE. He has ruled for 18 years since his final victory. He has transformed a collection of squabbling territories into a unified empire. But as his body is laid to rest according to Zoroastrian custom, as the priests perform the ancient rites, everyone knows the same truth. The real test of the Sasanian Empire is about to begin, because Shapur I has inherited the throne. And Shapur has something to prove. Chapter 4. The King of Kings declares war. Rome, in the year 243 CE, is at the height of its power, or so it believes. The Emperor Gordian III is young, advised by his father-in-law, the Praetorian prefect Timesitheus. Together they command legions that have conquered the known world. When news reaches Rome that a new Persian dynasty has arisen, claiming descent from the ancient Achaemenids, the Senate laughs. "Let them claim whatever lineage they wish," one senator declares. "Alexander conquered them once. We can do so again." This arrogance will cost them dearly. Shapur I sits in Ctesiphon, now his capital, and he makes his preparations carefully. He is not a reckless young fool, despite what the Romans believe. He has learned from his father. He understands that great victories require great planning. He modernizes the army further. He recruits engineers who can build siege weapons. He establishes supply lines that can support armies far from home. And he studies the Romans obsessively, their tactics, their weaknesses, their tendency to underestimate Eastern enemies. When he finally marches west in 243 CE, he is ready. The Battle of Mesich is fought near the Euphrates River. The Roman legions march in their famous formations, disciplined and professional. They have crushed Germanic tribes, defeated Egyptian rebels, subdued Gallic chieftains. They expect another routine victory. But the Persian cavalry that crashes into their flanks is unlike anything they have faced before. These are not light horsemen who harass and flee. These are cataphracts, fully armored knights on armored horses, wielding long lances and swords. They smash through Roman lines like a hammer through pottery. The Emperor Gordian III dies in the chaos. Whether killed in battle or murdered by his own Praetorian prefect, history will never know for certain. His body falls in foreign soil, far from Rome. Shapur stands victorious on the battlefield as sunset paints the sky blood red. He has defeated Rome. He has avenged 500 years of Greek and Roman dominance over the East. But this is only the beginning. Chapter 5. The Humiliation of Rome. The new Roman Emperor, Philip the Arab, sues for peace immediately. He has no choice. His predecessor is dead. His legions are broken. Persian cavalry raids threaten Roman provinces from Syria to Armenia. Shapur's demands are brutal. Rome must pay an enormous tribute, 500,000 denarii in gold. Rome must cede territories. Rome must acknowledge that the Sassanian Empire is its equal. Philip agrees to everything. He has no leverage. But Shapur is not satisfied with mere victory. He understands something profound about power. Memory is what makes empires last. So he orders his scribes to record his triumph in 3 languages: Middle Persian, Parthian, and Greek. He commands his stonemasons to carve the victory on rock faces where it will survive for millennia. The inscription reads, "I, Shapur, King of Kings of Iran and non-Iran, whose lineage is from the gods." It continues for paragraphs, listing his conquests, his victories, his divine right to rule. But Shapur is not done with Rome. Not even close. 20 years pass. Shapur has consolidated his empire, expanded eastward into what is now Afghanistan and Pakistan, established trade routes that bring silk from China and spices from India. The Sassanian Empire is wealthy beyond measure. Gold flows into Ctesiphon, merchants grow rich, cities expand. But the old hunger has not left Shapur's heart. Rome has a new emperor now, Valerian, an elderly senator elevated to the purple in desperate times. Rome is fracturing, beset by internal rebellions and external invasions. Shapur sees the weakness. He strikes. Chapter 6. The Captive Emperor. The year is 260 CE. The Roman Emperor Valerian marches east with a massive army, 70,000 men, perhaps the largest force Rome has sent to the east in generations. He intends to crush the Persians once and for all, to restore Roman prestige, to secure the eastern frontier. He is walking into a trap. The Battle of Edessa begins with a Roman siege. Valerian surrounds the city of Edessa, planning to starve it into submission. But Shapur has prepared for this. He has positioned his forces carefully, cutting off Roman supply lines, poisoning wells, waiting for the right moment. As weeks pass, the Roman army grows hungry, then thirsty, then desperate. Disease spreads through the Roman camp. Dysentery, fever, plague. Men die by the hundreds, then thousands. Valerian realizes too late that he is no longer the besieger, but the besieged. He sends envoys to Shapur, seeking terms, seeking negotiation. Shapur agrees to meet. It is the greatest mistake Valerian will ever make. The meeting takes place in a tent between the armies. Valerian enters with a small guard, expecting diplomatic protocol, expecting the usual negotiation between civilized rulers. Shapur has other plans. As Valerian begins to speak, Persian soldiers surround him. Before the Romans can react, the Emperor of Rome is seized, bound, made prisoner. His guards are cut down. The shocked Roman army, leaderless and diseased, collapses into chaos. Shapur has captured a living Roman emperor. It is unprecedented in history. It is a humiliation beyond measure. What happens next will echo through the centuries. Shapur does not execute Valerian. That would be too merciful, too quick. Instead, he keeps him as a living trophy, a walking symbol of Persian supremacy. Some accounts say Valerian was used as a footstool, that when Shapur mounted his horse, the Roman emperor had to kneel and offer his back as a step. Other sources claim he was forced to wear purple Roman robes while serving Persian nobles at banquets. The truth is lost to time, but the message is clear. Rome, the eternal city, the conqueror of the world, has been brought low. Shapur orders massive rock reliefs carved at Naqsh-i-Rustam and Bishapur. They show Valerian kneeling before Shapur. They show Philip the Arab bowing. They show the King of Kings triumphant over the mightiest empire on earth. These images survive to this day, carved in stone, testament to a moment when the balance of power shifted. When Valerian finally dies, old, broken, humiliated, Shapur has his skin flayed and stuffed with straw, creating a macabre trophy kept in a Persian temple as a warning to future enemies. This is what happens, the stuffed corpse seems to say, when you challenge the King of Kings. Chapter 7. The Golden Age. But Shapur is more than just a conqueror. As his reign continues into his 70s, he turns his attention to what will outlast military victories. He founds new cities, literally dozens of them, each one planned with geometric precision, with markets and temples and palaces. He brings Roman prisoners of war to Persia, but not to languish in chains. He employs them as engineers, architects, craftsmen. They build bridges and dams. They construct the Band-e-Kaisar, a massive bridge dam that still stands today. This is not cruelty. This is pragmatism. Shapur understands that great empires are built not just by soldiers, but by engineers and farmers and merchants. He is also surprisingly tolerant for his era. Though Zoroastrianism is the state religion, Shapur allows Christians, Jews, Buddhists, and Manichaeans to practice their faiths. He even debates with the prophet Mani, founder of Manichaeism, engaging in theological discussions that last for hours. His advisors are confused by this tolerance. "My lord," one says, "why allow these foreign religions? They weaken Zoroastrian faith." Shapur's reply is telling. A great garden has many flowers. An empire is strong not when everyone believes the same, but when everyone has a reason to prosper. This policy will not last beyond his reign, but for now, Persia experiences a renaissance. Trade flourishes. Culture blooms. The Sasanian court becomes a center of art and learning. But even the greatest kings must face mortality. Shapur I dies in 270 CE at the age of 72. He has reigned for over 30 years. He has defeated 3 Roman emperors. He has expanded the empire from the Euphrates to the Indus, from the Caucasus to the Arabian Sea. His death is mourned across the empire. Zoroastrian priests perform elaborate funeral rites. His body is interred with honors reserved for the gods themselves. But as the flames consume the king's body, as the prayers rise into the night sky, a question haunts the court. Can anyone truly follow Shapur the Great? Can the empire survive without its legendary founder's son? Chapter 8. The Plague of Brothers. The answer, it turns out, is barely. Shapur I had designated his son Hormizd as heir. Hormizd I is competent, cautious, trained in governance. He reigns for only 1 year before dying of illness. His son, Bahram I, takes the throne, and immediately the cracks begin to show. Bahram I is a religious zealot. Where his grandfather Shapur tolerated diversity, Bahram sees heresy. Where Shapur saw strength in plurality, Bahram sees weakness. He orders the execution of Mani, the prophet his grandfather once debated. Mani is imprisoned, tortured, and left to die in chains. His followers are persecuted. Their books are burned. The message is clear. There is room for only one faith in Persia. But religious intolerance is not Bahram's only problem. He also faces the eternal challenge of the Sasanian dynasty, brothers. In the Sasanian system, the throne does not automatically pass from father to son. It can go to brothers, to uncles, to cousins. Any male of royal blood is, theoretically, eligible. This creates constant intrigue. Bahram I has brothers who believe they should rule. He has cousins who plot. He has sons who grow impatient. The court becomes a nest of vipers where everyone smiles and everyone schemes. Bahram I reigns for only 3 years before dying, possibly of natural causes, possibly of poison. His son, Bahram II, takes the throne and immediately faces a rebellion from his own uncle, Hormizd. Uncle and nephew go to war. Armies clash, blood is spilled, and while Persians fight Persians, the Romans, humiliated but not destroyed, begin to recover. The cycle that will define the next 4 centuries has begun. Victory, succession crisis, weakness, Roman resurgence, Persian recovery. Repeat. But even in these chaotic times, the empire endures. Why? Because Ardashir and Shapur built something solid, the administrative system continues. The trade routes remain open. The army, though divided between rival claimants, is still formidable. And because the idea of the Sassanian Empire, the notion that Persia is Rome's equal, that the East can stand against the West, has taken root. Ideas, once planted, are harder to kill than kings. Chapter 9. The Reformer King. Decades pass. Kings come and go. Wars are fought. Treaties are signed and broken. And then, in 309 CE, a different kind of king takes the throne. His name is Shapur II, and he will reign for 70 years. But Shapur II's story begins before his birth. His father, Hormuz II, dies when his wife is pregnant. The nobles, desperate to avoid a succession crisis, do something unprecedented. They place the crown on the pregnant queen's belly. When the child is born, a boy, he is already, technically, the king of kings. This is both genius and madness. A baby cannot rule. So, for the first 16 years of his reign, regents and nobles govern in his name. They make decisions. They fight wars. They negotiate with Rome. But they also make enemies. They accumulate resentments. They create problems. When Shapur II comes of age and takes actual power, he is angry. Angry at the nobles who enriched themselves while pretending to serve him. Angry at the enemies who thought Persia was weak. Angry at the world for the disrespect shown to his kingdom. He will spend the next 5 decades making everyone pay for that disrespect. His first target is Arabia. Arab tribes have been raiding Persian territory for years, stealing livestock, attacking trade caravans, disappearing into the desert before Persian forces can respond. Shapur II decides to solve this problem permanently. He marches into Arabia with his army, not to raid, but to conquer. He establishes garrisons. He builds fortifications. He forcibly relocates entire tribes, moving them deep into Persian territory where they can be controlled. The campaign is brutal. Some accounts claim Shapur had captured Arabs' shoulders pierced so they could be tied together and marched as slaves. Whether this is true or propaganda, it earns him a nickname, Shapur Dul Aktaf, Shapur of the shoulders. The Arabian border is secured. The raids stop. Shapur has sent a message. There is a new king of kings, and he is not to be trifled with. But Arabia is merely the warm-up. Shapur II turns his attention west. Rome has changed since his great-grandfather humiliated Valerian. It is now Christian, united under Constantine, rebuilt and resurgent. The emperor, Constantine's son, Constantius II, rules the Eastern Empire. He and Shapur will fight for decades. 9 major wars, countless skirmishes, cities besieged, captured, recaptured, besieged again. Neither side can achieve decisive victory. The border becomes a graveyard of ambitions. But amid the warfare, Shapur makes time for something else. Innovation. He reforms the tax system, making it more efficient and less corrupt. He encourages agriculture, building irrigation systems that turn marginal land into farmland. He establishes libraries and supports scholars. He invites scientists and philosophers from India, from China, from Greece. The Sasanian court becomes a meeting place of civilizations. And Shapur himself becomes something rare, a warrior king who is also a builder, a destroyer who is also a creator. In his old age, Shapur II sits in his palace and reflects on his 70-year reign. He has fought 5 Roman emperors. He has secured the borders. He has made Persia once again a superpower, but he has also seen something troubling. The wars with Rome, though often victorious, are draining. They cost money, lives, resources. They never truly end. Each peace treaty is merely a pause before the next war. We are, Shapur tells one of his advisors, two scorpions in a bottle. Neither can destroy the other, but neither can escape. The advisor nods sadly. What is the solution, my lord? Shapur stares into the distance. I do not know. Perhaps there is no solution. Perhaps this is simply the fate of empires. He dies in 379 CE, having ruled longer than any Persian king before or after. His reign is remembered as a golden age, but it is also a warning. Greatness is not sustainable forever. Even the strongest kings must eventually fail. And when they do, the consequences can be catastrophic. Chapter 10. The Gathering Storm. After Shapur II, the succession troubles return with a vengeance. His son, Ardashir II, reigns for only 4 years before being deposed. His nephew takes power, then is murdered. Another relative seizes the throne, then dies in battle. For 40 years, the empire stumbles from crisis to crisis. And while Persia bleeds internally, new threats emerge. To the north, nomadic tribes called the Hephthalites, the White Huns, begin raiding Persian territory. They are fierce warriors, mounted archers who strike like lightning and disappear before Persian armies can respond. They are also hungry, driven from their homelands by climate change and desperate for new lands. Persia's northern border, long secure, becomes a bleeding wound. To the west, Rome has split into eastern and western halves. The Western Empire will soon fall to Germanic invaders. But the eastern half, which will become known as the Byzantine Empire, remains strong. And it remembers every humiliation, every defeat, every captured emperor. It wants revenge. But the greatest threat to the Sasanian Empire is not external. It is internal. It is the poison of succession, the curse of having no clear rules for who inherits the crown. Every king must fight not just foreign enemies, but his own family. Every prince sees the throne and thinks, why not me? This is unsustainable. This is deadly. And in the late 5th century, the empire nearly collapses entirely. King Peroz I, desperate to prove himself, launches a massive campaign against the Hephthalites. It is a disaster. His army is lured into a trap. Surrounded in barren hills, cut off from supplies, they are systematically destroyed. Peroz himself dies in the battle. His treasury is captured. His crown becomes a trophy in a barbarian tent. The news reaches Ctesiphon like a thunderbolt. The King of Kings is dead. The army is destroyed. The northern border is open. For a terrible moment, it seems the Sassanian Empire will follow the Western Roman Empire into oblivion. But empires do not die easily. From the chaos, a new figure emerges. Not a prince, not a general, but a reformer. His name is Kavad I, and he will save the empire by nearly destroying it first. Chapter 11. The Revolutionary King. Kavad I takes the throne in 488 CE, and immediately he does something no Persian king has dared before. He challenges the nobles. For 3 centuries, the great aristocratic families, the 7 great houses of Persia, have grown increasingly powerful. They own vast estates. They control armies. They treat their peasants as property. And they pay almost no taxes. The empire's finances are in ruins. The treasury is empty. The army cannot be paid, and the nobles sit in their palaces, hoarding wealth while the kingdom crumbles. Kavad sees this, and he is furious. But how does a king fight the very class that makes kings? Kavad finds an unlikely ally in a religious movement called Mazdakism. Mazdak, a radical Zoroastrian priest, preaches revolutionary ideas that wealth should be shared more equally, that the aristocracy is corrupt, that social hierarchies are not divinely ordained. To the nobles, this is heresy. To the poor, it is hope. Kavad embraces Mazdakism, not out of pure belief perhaps, but because he needs leverage against the aristocracy. The experiment goes disastrously wrong. Mazdak's followers begin seizing aristocratic estates. They redistribute land. They free slaves. Some accounts claim they even advocated for sharing women, though this may be aristocratic propaganda. The nobles, terrified and enraged, act. They depose Kavad, throw him into prison, and install his brother on the throne. It seems the revolutionary king's reign is over before it truly began. But Kavad is not finished. In prison, he befriends his guards. He makes promises, offers rewards, plays on their grievances, and when the moment is right, he escapes. He flees east to the court of the Hephthalites, yes, the same nomads who destroyed Peroz's army, who humiliated Persia. Kavad has no pride left to lose. He needs an army, and he will get one anywhere he can. He marries a Hephthalite princess. He promises tribute. He swears friendship. And the Hephthalite Khan, seeing opportunity, lends him an army. Kavad returns to Persia at the head of a barbarian horde. The nobles, who thought they were rid of him, watch in horror as their prisoner-turned-exile rides back with foreign cavalry. His brother's forces crumble. The nobles, divided and unprepared, cannot organize resistance. Kavad retakes the throne in 499 CE. This time, he has learned his lesson. Radicalism nearly destroyed him. Now, he will be more subtle, more patient, but no less determined to break the aristocracy's power. Chapter 12. The Genius King. Kavad I has a son named Khosrow. From childhood, this boy is exceptional, brilliant, curious, disciplined. He masters philosophy, mathematics, strategy. He speaks multiple languages. He debates with scholars from across the known world. Kavad sees in his son something he himself never had, the intellect to match his ambition. The empire needs more than just warriors, Kavad tells young Khosrow. It needs systems that work after we are gone. Khosrow listens, he learns, he prepares, and when Kavad dies in 531 CE, Khosrow I takes the throne ready to reshape the entire empire. History will call him Khosrow the Great, Khosrow the Just, Khosrow the Immortal Soul. The Persians will call him Anushirvan of the Immortal Soul, and for good reason. His first act is to complete what his father started, breaking aristocratic power. But Khosrow is smarter than his father. He does not rely on radical religious movements. He uses bureaucracy. He creates a new class of administrators, the Decans, drawn from lesser nobility and commoners. These men owe their positions entirely to the king, not to their bloodlines. He reforms the tax system, making it based on land surveys rather than arbitrary noble privilege. Every acre is measured, every taxpayer is registered. The great aristocratic families scream in protest, but they cannot resist. Because Khosrow has done something brilliant, he has given the people a stake in his success. Under Khosrow's tax reform, peasants pay less than they did under aristocratic exploitation. They are still not free. This is still an ancient empire, not a democracy, but they are better off. And when your belly is fuller, when your tax burden is lighter, you do not join aristocratic rebellions. You support the king. But Khosrow does not stop at taxes. He reforms the ARMY, creating 4 regional commands instead of relying on aristocratic levies. Each command is professional, paid by the state, loyal to the crown. He modernizes the government, creating ministries for different functions: finance, military, religion, public works. He appoints the best men he can find, regardless of birth. He builds hospitals, he establishes schools, he funds irrigation projects. One of his greatest achievements is the construction of the Grand Canal, connecting major rivers and revolutionizing trade and agriculture. And Khosrow loves knowledge. When the Byzantine Emperor Justinian closes the Academy of Athens, the last bastion of Greek philosophy, Khosrow welcomes the refugee philosophers to his court. He has Sanskrit texts translated into Persian. He imports chess from India, and it becomes popular among the Persian elite. He commissions the translation of medical, astronomical, and mathematical works from across the known world. The Sasanian court becomes the intellectual center of its age. Baghdad, centuries later, will inherit this tradition. The Islamic Golden Age will be built on foundations laid by Khosrow Anushirvan. But Khosrow is not just a peaceful reformer. He fights Rome, now called Byzantium, in a long, grinding war. He invades, captures cities, negotiates treaties. He faces the great Byzantine Emperor Justinian in a decades-long struggle. Neither side wins decisively, but Persia holds its own against a resurgent Rome. And when an eternal peace is finally signed in 561 CE, both empires are exhausted but still standing. Khosrow reigns for 48 years. When he dies in 579 CE, he leaves behind an empire transformed, efficient, prosperous, strong. His subjects genuinely mourn him. Stories are told of his justice, his wisdom, his care for the common people. He becomes a legend, the ideal king, the standard by which all future rulers will be judged. But legends cast long shadows, and his son, Hormizd IV, will struggle to fill his father's enormous shoes. Chapter 13. The Breaking Point. Hormizd IV is not a bad king. He is intelligent, capable, determined to continue his father's reforms. He tries to limit aristocratic power even further. He protects religious minorities. He maintains strong central authority. But he has one fatal flaw: he is arrogant. He dismisses advice. He alienates his generals. He makes enemies unnecessarily. And in the Sasanian system, a king without loyal generals is a king without a throne. The breaking point comes with a general named Bahram Chobin. Bahram is a brilliant military commander from an old aristocratic family, but loyal to the crown. He wins victories on the eastern frontier, driving back nomadic invasions. But then, through no real fault of his own, he suffers a defeat. Hormizd IV, rather than understanding the difficulties of frontier warfare, publicly humiliates him, strips him of rank, sends him a dress as an insult, implying he fights like a woman. This is a mistake. Bahram Chobin does not accept humiliation quietly. He raises his army in rebellion. But here is the shocking part. He does not claim to be acting for another prince. He does not pretend to be a loyalist restoring the true king. He claims the throne for himself. A non-royal, a general, declaring himself king of kings. This is unprecedented. This is revolution. The nobles panic. The priests panic. The entire social order is threatened. If a general can simply declare himself king, if blood means nothing, then anyone could rule. The sacred order of the universe would collapse. Hormizd IV's own nobles depose him to prevent Bahram's revolution from succeeding. They blind him, the traditional way of removing a king without killing him, and install his son, Khosrow II, on the throne. Young Khosrow II now faces an impossible situation. He is king, yes, but Bahram Chobin has the army, and Bahram is marching on Ctesiphon. Chapter 14. The Flight to Rome. Khosrow II is only 19 years old. He sits on a throne that is barely his, in a capital he cannot defend, facing a rebel general who commands the loyalty of the best troops in the empire. He does something that would have been unthinkable a century earlier. He flees to Byzantium, to the enemy, to Rome. The Byzantine Emperor Maurice receives the Persian prince with calculating interest. Persia is tearing itself apart. Byzantium has a chance to install a client king, a grateful puppet who will owe his crown to Roman help. Maurice sends an army with Khosrow. Byzantine soldiers march into Persia, fighting alongside the young king against Bahram Chobin. It is a strange moment in history. Rome and Persia, eternal enemies, fighting together. The final battle takes place in 591 CE. Bahram Chobin, for all his military genius, cannot overcome the symbolism. He is a rebel, a usurper. Khosrow, no matter how young and desperate, carries the weight of legitimacy. Bahram's forces waver, then break, then flee. Bahram himself escapes east, eventually dying in exile, murdered by the very nomads he once sought refuge with. Khosrow II enters Ctesiphon victorious, restored to his throne. But the victory comes with a price. Khosrow owes everything to Byzantium. He has ceded territories. He has made promises. He has shown weakness. This shame will haunt him, this debt will consume him, and when the opportunity for revenge finally comes, Khosrow II will seize it with both hands, even if it destroys his empire in the process. Chapter 15. The Last Great War. For a decade, Khosrow II rules peacefully. He rebuilds his authority, he consolidates power. He honors his agreements with Byzantium. Emperor Maurice becomes more than an ally, almost a friend. They exchange gifts. They write letters. Maurice even asks Khosrow to be godfather to one of his sons. The Persian-Byzantine peace seems genuine, perhaps permanent. But in 602 CE, everything changes. A Byzantine officer named Phocas leads a brutal rebellion. He overthrows Maurice. He murders the emperor. He kills Maurice's sons, including the boy who Khosrow was godfather to. The Byzantine Empire descends into civil war and chaos. Khosrow II, when he hears the news, is shocked, then angry, then calculating. He declares war on Byzantium, ostensibly to avenge his friend Maurice. But this is more than revenge. This is ambition. Khosrow sees a chance to do what no Persian king has done since Alexander, to conquer the West entirely, and he nearly succeeds. The Persian armies sweep through Byzantine territory like a tsunami. They capture Syria, they take Jerusalem, and when they do, they seize the true cross, Christianity's most sacred relic. Christian chroniclers will call this the greatest catastrophe since the crucifixion itself. They conquer Egypt, Byzantium's breadbasket. They cut off Constantinople's grain supply. They reach the Bosporus itself, camping within sight of Constantinople's walls. The Byzantine Emperor Heraclius, who has overthrown Phocas, considers fleeing to Africa. The city is on the verge of starvation. The empire seems finished. But Khosrow has overextended. His armies are scattered across thousands of miles. His supply lines are stretched impossibly thin. His treasury, though vast, is being drained by the cost of occupation. And Heraclius, desperate but brilliant, does something unexpected. Instead of defending Constantinople, he attacks. Chapter 16. The Gamble of Heraclius. In 622 CE, Emperor Heraclius leads a Byzantine army on an audacious gamble. He bypasses the Persian armies occupying Roman territory and strikes directly into the Persian heartland. He sails across the Black Sea, marches through Armenia, invades Persia itself. It is insane. It is brilliant. Khosrow II, sitting in his palace, is caught completely off guard. His best generals are in Syria, in Egypt, on the Bosporus. His forces in Persia are second-rate garrison troops. Heraclius defeats them. He burns Zoroastrian fire temples. He destroys palaces. He ravages the countryside. He is doing to Persia what Persia did to Byzantium, bringing the war home. For 6 years, Heraclius campaigns deep in Persian territory. Khosrow II desperately recalls armies from the west. But every time he gathers forces, Heraclius outmaneuvers him, strikes elsewhere, disappears into the mountains. The Persian king becomes increasingly paranoid. He sees traitors everywhere. He executes generals for imagined disloyalty. He alienates his own supporters. The final battle comes in December 627 CE at Nineveh. Not the ancient Nineveh of Assyrian glory, but near it, at a place called the Battle of Nineveh nonetheless. Heraclius's army, veteran and disciplined, faces Persian forces commanded by generals who no longer trust their king. The battle lasts 11 hours. When it ends, the Persian army is destroyed. Heraclius marches on Ctesiphon itself. Chapter 17. The King of Excess. But let us step back. Let us understand why this catastrophe happened. Let us talk about what Khosrow II became. In the years of his greatest power, Khosrow II had transformed from a desperate refugee into the richest king on earth. His palace at Ctesiphon was a wonder. Golden throne, jeweled crown so heavy it had to be suspended by chains from the ceiling. Mechanical trees with artificial birds that sang. He owned 12,000 women in his harem. He had thousands of horses. His personal wealth exceeded that of entire kingdoms. But there is one story that defines him above all others. The story of Shirin. Shirin was a Christian princess from Armenia. Khosrow fell in love with her, genuinely, obsessively in love. He married her despite opposition from Zoroastrian priests. He built her palaces. He honored her faith. Their love story becomes legendary, immortalized in Persian poetry for centuries. But love, even true love, does not make someone a good king. Khosrow became consumed by luxury, by pleasure, by the need to prove he was the greatest king ever. He built and built and built palaces, gardens, monuments. The famous Takhasra, the great arch of Ctesiphon, one of the largest brick arches ever constructed, still stands today, 15 centuries later, a testament to Persian architectural genius. But it also stands as a testament to excess. While Khosrow built palaces, his armies bled. While he collected treasures, his people paid crushing taxes. While he pursued glory, his empire crumbled. The nobles and generals, watching their king become increasingly erratic, increasingly tyrannical, make a decision. They arrest Khosrow II. They imprison him in his own palace, surrounded by all his treasures but stripped of all power. His son, Kavad II, is proclaimed king. And in that prison, in February 628 CE, Khosrow II dies, officially of illness. But whispers speak of murder, of his own son ordering his death. He has reigned for 38 years. He brought the empire to its greatest extent since Shapur I, and he has led it to the brink of destruction. Chapter 18. The 20-Year Collapse. What happens next is chaos. Kavad II dies after only a few months. Plague or poison, no one knows. His son, a child, is proclaimed king, then murdered. Another claimant takes the throne, then another, then another. In 4 years, 10 different people claim to be king of kings. 10 in 4 years. Brothers kill brothers, generals crown themselves. The imperial guard makes and unmakes kings like children playing with toys, and while Persia tears itself apart, Byzantium recovers. Heraclius forces a peace treaty. The true cross is returned. All conquered territories are surrendered. It is as if the last great war never happened, except for the hundreds of thousands dead, the cities destroyed, the treasuries emptied. Both empires are exhausted. Both need peace to rebuild. But they will not get it because a new force is about to enter the stage. A force neither empire has planned for. A force that will destroy one and cripple the other. Chapter 19. The Storm from Arabia. In the year 632 CE, a merchant from Mecca dies. His name is Muhammad, and he has spent the last 23 years preaching a new religion, building a new community, transforming the scattered Arab tribes into a unified force. Neither Persia nor Byzantium pays much attention. Arabs are raiders, nomads, barbarians. They have neither the organization nor the resources to threaten great empires. This assessment is catastrophically wrong. Within 2 years of Muhammad's death, Arab armies are attacking both Persian and Byzantine territories. They are fast, they are motivated, they are fearless. They believe they fight for God, that death in battle guarantees paradise. They have nothing to lose and eternity to gain. Against exhausted empires still bleeding from decades of war, they are unstoppable. In 634 CE, Arab forces win the Battle of the Bridge against a Persian army. Persian generals are shocked. These are not mere raiders. These are organized, disciplined soldiers. But the empire is still too divided to respond effectively. Different claimants to the throne prioritize fighting each other over fighting this new threat. By the time they realize their mistake, it is too late. The Battle of Qadisiyah in 636 CE is the turning point. A massive Persian army, perhaps 30,000 strong, including elephants and the finest cavalry in the world, faces an Arab force of similar size. The battle lasts 3 days. On the first day, the Persians push the Arabs back. Victory seems certain. On the second day, a sandstorm blows in the faces of the Persian troops. The momentum shifts. On the third day, Arab reinforcements arrive. The Persian commander is killed. The army breaks. The Sassanian Empire has lost its last great army. In 637 CE, Ctesiphon falls. The capital of the Sassanian Empire for 400 years is captured by an army of desert nomads. The great palace is looted. The treasures of centuries are carried away. The mechanical throne, the jeweled crown, the artificial trees, all become booty for Arab soldiers. The new Persian king, Yazdegerd III, flees east. He is only 8 years old. Chapter 20. The Last King. For 14 years, Yazdegerd III runs. He flees from city to city, always one step ahead of the Arab armies. He tries to rally forces, to organize resistance, to reclaim his throne. But everywhere he goes, the local governors either surrender to the Arabs or betray him. The empire he nominally rules exists only in his own mind. He reaches the eastern provinces, Khorasan, hoping to find support, to raise a new army, to perhaps ally with the Chinese or the Turks. But he is not a charismatic leader like Ardashir. He is not a brilliant general like Shapur. He is not a reformer like Khosrow I. He is a child who inherited a dying empire, and he lacks the power to save it. In 651 CE, in the city of Merv, the local governor sees an opportunity. Yazdegerd III still has some treasure with him, remnants of the royal wealth. The governor decides to take it. In a mill, at night, assassins attack the young king. Yazdegerd III, the last king of kings, is murdered for his gold. His body is hidden. He is buried without ceremony. The Sassanian Empire is finished. 427 years from Ardashir's first victory in 224 CE to Yazdegerd's death in 651 CE. 4 centuries of power, of glory, of civilization, gone. But here is what the conquerors discover. You can conquer Persia, but you cannot erase it. The Arab Muslims who overthrow the Sasanians do not destroy Persian culture. They absorb it. The administrative systems Khosrow I created, the Arabs adopt them. The Persian bureaucrats who ran the Sassanian Empire, they run the caliphate. The Persian language, rather than disappearing, evolves and thrives. Persian poetry, Persian art, Persian philosophy, they all continue. When the caliphate eventually fragments, Persian dynasties rise again. The Samanids, the Buyids, eventually the Safavids. Persia as a nation, as a culture, as an idea, proves impossible to kill. Epilogue. What the Sasanians left behind. Let us be clear about what the Sassanian Empire achieved. For 4 centuries, it stood as Rome's equal. It proved that the East could match the West in power, in culture, in sophistication. It preserved and transmitted knowledge from India, from China, from Greece. It served as a bridge between civilizations. Its administrative innovations, the tax system, the bureaucracy, the professional army, became the template for the Islamic caliphates and influenced governance for centuries. Its art and architecture inspired Islamic art. Those beautiful geometric patterns, those intricate arabesques, they have Sasanian roots. Chess, the game of kings, spread to the west through the Sasanian court. But perhaps the greatest legacy is this. The Sasanians proved that empires are mortal. Rome fell. Persia fell. Nothing lasts forever, no matter how powerful, how wealthy, how seemingly eternal. What does last? Ideas, culture, knowledge, innovation. The Sasanian palaces are ruins now, but the ideas born in those palaces still shape our world. So tonight, as you close your eyes, remember this story. Remember Ardashir, the temple guardian's son who dared to dream of an empire. Remember Shapur I, who humbled Rome itself. Remember Khosrow I, who built a government that worked. Remember that all glory fades, but not all is lost. The forgotten empire left its mark, and perhaps that is the greatest victory of all. Practical lessons from the Sasanian story. 1. Systems outlast individuals. Ardashir and Khosrow built administrative structures that survived weak kings. Build systems, not cults of personality. 2. Succession planning matters. The Sasanians' failure to establish clear succession rules led to endless civil wars. Clarity prevents chaos. 3. Overextension kills empires. Khosrow II conquered brilliantly, but could not hold what he won. Sustainable growth beats glorious collapse. 4. Reform requires breaking old power structures. Khosrow I succeeded by diminishing aristocratic privilege. Sometimes progress means making enemies of the powerful. 5. Cultural survival outlasts political survival. Though the empire fell, Persian culture thrived. What you build matters more than what you rule. Personally, what strikes me most about the Sasanians is their resilience. They were defeated, rebuilt, defeated again, rebuilt again for over 4 centuries. That kind of endurance comes from something deeper than military might. It comes from a civilization that gave people reason to believe, to rebuild, to continue. Good night! If this story moved you, if you learned something, if you felt the weight of empires rising and falling, Then please subscribe. Share this with someone who loves history. Tell me in the comments, what moment gave you goosebumps? What lesson will you carry with you? The night speaks, and it has so many more stories to tell. Sleep well.